The neon lights of Shanghai buzzed with an electric intensity as the evening of the prestigious LUX brand event finally arrived. Outside the sprawling, glass-fronted venue, a dense sea of flashing cameras, roaring fans, and eager media reporters created an atmosphere thick with anticipation. Every major star was expected to grace the crimson carpet, but social media had been ablaze with whispers surrounding one particular pairing for weeks. Industry insiders and die-hard fandoms alike were convinced that actor Tian Xiwei and actor Zhang Linghe, who had captured hearts with their incredible chemistry, might cross paths tonight in a way that went beyond mere coincidence. Tian Xiwei's sleek black luxury van pulled up seamlessly to the designated drop-off zone, cutting through the murmurs of the crowd like a sleek shadow. As the tinted door slid open, a collective gasp echoed through the barricades as Tian Xiwei emerged looking breathtaking in an ethereal, custom-designed silk gown. Her hair was styled in soft, cascading waves that caught the amber glow of the street lamps, and her radiant smile immediately blinded the wall of paparazzi lenses. Security guards rushed forward to form a protective human corridor, guiding her swiftly toward the illuminated steps of the grand entrance while flashbulbs erupted like continuous lightning. Yet, amidst the chaos of her grand entrance, a quiet buzz was beginning to ripple through the VIP backstage entrance located at the rear of the building. While the media and the public were entirely mesmerized by Tian Xiwei's dazzling arrival on the main red carpet, a second, far more discreet vehicle slipped past the outer perimeter gates. It was a nondescript, matte black luxury SUV with heavily tinted windows, a choice of transport typically favored by high-profile celebrities wishing to bypass the flashing cameras and chaotic fan zones entirely. Inside the dimly lit cabin of that secondary vehicle sat Zhang Linghe, completely composed yet undeniably alert as the car glided smoothly into the subterranean parking garage. Dressed in a sharp, impeccably tailored velvet tuxedo that hugged his tall frame, he checked his wristwatch with a quiet sigh of relief. His schedule for the evening had been meticulously coordinated to ensure zero overlap with the mainstream media schedule, a strategic move orchestrated by management teams eager to avoid premature headlines. However, avoiding the press did not mean he was traveling alone in spirit or purpose, as the underlying tension of the night hinted at a deeper connection. As the elevator doors opened on the exclusive penthouse level reserved for high-tier brand ambassadors and special guests, Zhang Linghe stepped out into the quiet, heavily carpeted corridor. The ambient lighting was soft and luxurious, casting long shadows against the minimalist floral arrangements that lined the walls. Assistants and event coordinators hurried past with clipboards and headsets, whispering urgency into their calm links, but Zhang Linghe moved with a calm, deliberate grace that contrasted sharply with the frantic energy of the night. His destination was not the main holding room, but rather a private VIP lounge tucked away behind the main stage. Down on the ground floor, Tian Xiwei had successfully completed her initial round of photo calls and media interviews, her laughter ringing out musically as she bantered with the hosts. She handled the barrage of questions about her upcoming projects with effortless charm, her eyes occasionally darting toward the side stage wings where the backstage staff were managing the flow of VIPs. Though she maintained absolute professionalism for the cameras, a subtle shift in her posture suggested she was hyper-aware of a very specific presence. Somewhere within the massive venue's labyrinthine backstage layout, the private VIP lounge was a sanctuary of acoustic panels, plush velvet seating, and subdued lighting, far removed from the sensory overload of the gala below. When the heavy oak door clicked shut behind Zhang Linghe, he found the room completely empty save for a low-burning scented candle and a small arrangement of white lilies. He tossed his velvet suit jacket gently over the back of a sofa, loosened his silk bowtie with a tired breath, and pulled out his smartphone to check for incoming messages. A single unread notification blinked on his screen from an encrypted messaging app, bearing a timestamp from just 2 minutes prior. The message was brief, consisting only of a cryptic emoji of a teacup followed by a specific room number located just down the corridor from his current position. A knowing smile tugged at the corners of Zhang Linghe's lips, breaking his characteristically stoic public expression into something remarkably warm and genuine. Without hesitation, he picked his jacket back up, slipped his phone into his trousers pocket, and strode out into the hallway, his footsteps muffled by the thick Persian runners underfoot as he navigated the maze of VIP suites. Meanwhile, Tian Xiwei was deftly excusing herself from a conversation with a senior fashion editor, claiming a momentary need to freshen up her makeup before the main banquet commenced. Her personal assistant, a trusted confidant of many years, smoothly intercepted a nearby event coordinator to clear a private path away from the prying eyes of the floating camera crews. They slipped through a discreet service door marked, "Authorized personnel only," leaving the glittering chaos of the ballroom behind them and entering the quiet, concrete-walled backstage hallways. The architectural layout of the venue created a secluded intersection where the private suites of the eastern wing converged with the service elevators. It was precisely at this secluded crossroads that the two parallel paths of the evening finally intersected after hours of speculation and whispered rumors. Zhang Ling was rounding the corner just as Tian Xiwei emerged from the service corridor, causing both of them to halt in their tracks as the sudden quiet of the backstage area enveloped them entirely. For a brief second, neither of them spoke, letting the sheer coincidence, or perhaps the careful design, of the moment sink in completely. Tian Xue's eyes widened slightly in surprise before softening into a familiar, affectionate crescent shape, while Zhang Ling let out a soft chuckle that broke the slight tension hanging in the air. "I was beginning to think your handlers had trapped you in the interview room forever," Zhang Ling noted softly, his voice a low baritone that resonated warmly in the empty corridor. Tian Xiwei crossed her arms playfully over her sequined gown, tilting her head with a mischievous glint in her dark eyes. "And I thought you were supposed to be arriving through the secret helipad to maintain your mysterious persona tonight," she teased back, stepping closer to bridge the physical gap between them. The playful banter immediately established the comfortable dynamic that fans could only ever catch brief, fleeting glimpses of during behind-the-scenes drama clips. Despite the relaxed atmosphere, the reality of their high-profile status meant that caution remained the absolute priority for everyone involved in their respective camps. Zhang Ling quickly glanced down both ends of the deserted hallway, ensuring that the coast was entirely clear of stray production assistants or roaming security cameras. "My car was parked 3 levels down, but the elevator bank was an absolute nightmare to navigate through," he explained, stepping a bit closer so they could speak in hushed, confidential tones. Tian Xiwei nodded understandingly, smoothing down a stray fold of her dress as she recounted the madness of her own red carpet entry. "You should have seen the flashbulbs out there tonight. I think my retinas are still trying to recover from the sheer amount of light," she laughed quietly, leaning her back gently against the cool concrete wall. "Everyone was asking about who I was wearing, but the real question everyone whispered about backstage was whether you had actually managed to sneak into the building." "Well, secrecy is an art form I've had to master over the years," Zhang Ling replied with a subtle, self-deprecating smile, leaning his shoulder against the wall opposite her. "Though I have to admit, keeping my presence a secret from the entire internet while being in the exact same building as you is starting to feel like an impossible magic trick." Their eyes locked in a shared understanding, acknowledging the peculiar constraints and hidden moments that defined their public-facing lives. The air between them carried the quiet comfort of two people who had spent countless hours together on sprawling ancient sets and modern soundstages alike. Working through grueling night shoots, grueling weather conditions, and intense media scrutiny had forged a resilient bond that went far beyond ordinary professional courtesy. Even when surrounded by the glittering opulence of a luxury brand gala, their shared focus seemed entirely insulated from the glittering chaos swirling just beyond the thick concrete walls. "Are you staying for the post-event dinner, or are your managers rushing you back to the studio for tomorrow's morning briefing?" Tian Xiwei asked softly, her tone carrying a hint of genuine curiosity beneath the casual inquiry. Zhang Ling shifted his weight, letting out a soft sigh as he considered his tightly packed itinerary for the remainder of the week. "The studio called about an hour ago demanding a script read-through revision, so I have to be back on set by dawn, but I cleared my schedule enough to stay for the main presentation." A flicker of visible disappointment crossed Tian Xue's expressive features before she quickly masked it with an encouraging nod. "Always working, aren't you? Well, make sure you actually eat something at the banquet table instead of just drinking black coffee and staring at your script notes," she admonished playfully, pointing a mock-serious finger in his direction. Zhang Ling laughed softly, raising his hands in a gesture of total surrender to her undeniable logic. Their conversation was suddenly interrupted by the faint, muffled sound of footsteps echoing from the far end of the service corridor, signaling that staff members were beginning to move toward their sector. Without a single spoken word of warning, Zhang Ling took a half-step back, immediately adopting a more formal posture while Tian Xiwei straightened her shoulders and adjusted her diamond-encrusted evening clutch. The split-second transition from private confidants back to guarded industry professionals was seamless, a survival tactic honed by years under the unforgiving microscope of celebrity culture. A junior production assistant rounded the corner carrying a stack of cue cards, looking flustered until they spotted the two prominent stars standing calmly in the hallway. The assistant immediately bowed apologetically, stammering out an explanation that the VIP presentation was scheduled to begin in less than 5 minutes. "Thank you, we'll be right there," Tian Xiwei responded smoothly, her voice carrying the crisp, authoritative tone of a seasoned professional accustomed to commanding a room effortlessly. As the assistant hurried away to manage other backstage duties, Zhang Ling offered Tian Xiwei a gentle, encouraging nod that spoke volumes without needing a single additional word. "Shall we make our grand entrances separately, or let the internet play detective for another week?" he whispered with a quiet, knowing grin. Tian Xiwei laughed brightly, pushing herself off the concrete wall and smoothing out her skirt for the final time. "Let's leave them guessing, it's much more entertaining that way," she replied with a playful wink. With that, Tian Xiwei turned gracefully and headed down the main corridor toward the VIP holding area, her posture regal and poised for the public eye once more. Zhang Ling watched her retreat for a brief moment before turning in the opposite direction toward the private terrace elevators, his heart feeling noticeably lighter than it had when he first arrived. The mystery of his secret accompaniment remained safe from the headline-hungry media, locked away in the quiet, fleeting moments shared behind the glittering facade of Shanghai's biggest night.